What is up, guys? It is Stu. It is another episode of the What the Fuck Gym Talk podcast, and I have Adam Wilson and Jason Bright, the owners of QCFit West. Let's do this real quick, fellas. Do the origin story of like North Lake to this relationship to opening this thing.
Okay. Well, I guess I got to start a little bit before North Lake, right? A lot of people know Adam and I played college football together for years. I say back when we were children, right? Adam had owned the business previously, and fast forward to me getting involved in the gym world. We started the gym North Lake about 11 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
And when I did, Adam joined. Was it a couple years after Adam?
Yeah,
maybe
2015.
2015 after that, and just kind of got involved with CrossFit, man, and just kind of grew together with the gym. And he fell in love with the sport of fitness. And at the time, Adam was living in the area down here where West is currently built. And I remember this like it's yesterday. He literally comes to me one day and says, "Hey, man, we should do a gym," right? And then he makes it sound easy. And
Are you working out at North Lake at this time?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so you're working out at the first location.
Yeah, he's working out at North Lake, and he has this idea about doing a gym, and I kind of hear him and just keep moving, and he keeps talking about, hey, we can do this. It's be an easy deal. It's just a big old shell, and you do this, that, and the other. And
it'll be real easy.
It'll be real easy, right? Real easy. So then he had a bead on this land down here, and we actually started talking seriously about it and got the money to buy the land. And then it wasn't so easy once we got into it, but we did it. So then,
what year is that you guys acquire the land?
We got it in November 2016.
Okay. So for everyone listening, and the angle I'm taking on this is like through the gym real estate company, but essentially like I'll get asked, should I buy or should I build? And then I always send them to Steve Pinkerton. I'm like, go talk to Steve, and Steve will give you his PTSD, which probably from building that place outlasts anything military-based PTSD he has. But like, when you guys were thinking of that, I mean, it's Charlotte. There's a ton of industrial warehouses. Why this? Like, why here? What foresight did you have, or was it just I got a lead on some cheap land? Like, talk to me about why build and why here.
Yeah, so the interesting part about this area is I had lived here since 2006.
Okay.
And I just 5 blocks from this location. So I kind of knew this area was up and coming. We're right outside of Charlotte. There's no businesses on this side of town. And so there's nothing to service the incoming population. So really for me, it was just what's a viable business that could support buying a piece of land commercially on this side of town. And since I lived right down the street, this area, I knew about it. And so my mind just started running, like what could we put on this dirt that would support the purchase of the land.
And was there just a mound of dirt here with a sign that said for sale, or did you have to go, were you searching for it? Did a broker give you a lead on it, or what?
I don't think there was a for sale sign, right?
The thing about this property is it went into like foreclosure bankruptcy, and the city of Charlotte took it over.
Okay.
So right in the housing market collapse in 2008, this thing
public housing, right?
It was public housing at the time. It was redesigned as commercial business park. And so the city of Charlotte actually owned it when we purchased the property. And literally within 3 months of us purchasing this piece of property, it transitioned into private hands. And then that's when you see what happened.
So how does that work? So someone's listening to this, they're like, I know some busted ass places in my neighborhood that I think might do well. How did you go about the actual searching process? So when you came here, like what did you do to go ahead and find out, oh, the city owns that? And then you don't just go on Google and say, call the city of Charlotte when I want to buy land from them. Like, how did you walk me through like the step by step? Because again, like gym owners, like we don't know shit about fuck when it comes to commercial real estate. This is all you have to learn this as you go. Yeah. So what did this look like?
Yeah. So I would just get into, every city has a Polaris GIS website.
Yeah.
And so I would get real familiar with that website, and I knew my focal area where I wanted to be, and I would just start searching and looking up stuff. I would drive through it. This area obviously is close to my home, so it wasn't that far away. And I knew just by putting my ear to the ground and talking to realtors and knowing what was coming in the future. We have Savona Mills, which is right down the street. That's been on the book since 2012.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like, is it coming? If it does come, we'll be sitting pretty. So everything's a risk, but you want to put yourself in that, what's my exit strategy? Do I have an A, a B, a C, and a D?
Yeah.
You don't want to just have, if A doesn't work, I'm screwed, right? And so we kind of went through this, and we're like, hey, if Savona Mills doesn't hit and there's not the foot traffic, we can, have the gym, and gyms don't need to have this great location right off the main strip because it's CrossFit, right? Yeah. If the gym doesn't work and Savona Mills hits, then we have all this space that will be desirable. So there was all these exit strategies Well,
we also looked at the corridors that come into Charlotte, right? So you have Zebulon, which is one they use to come into Charlotte. We're right here off 77, 85. It kind of all comes together.
Good highway access.
And so, I live in Concord, but in my mind, we're not that far from uptown, and it really is it made sense.
Yeah. And it's, for everyone listening, GIS real quick, is it Geographical Information Systems?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So every county, if you just put in your county's, name your county, put GIS in it, there's going to be some kind of interactive map. You guys can go and throw an address up there, and it'll show you zoning, property tax records, deeds, who's owned it, all that kind of stuff. Some of them are better than others. But then when you guys are talking about Sonova, this is where I get this all the time where, Stu, I want to go here because I hear there's a cool development coming. And the development you're talking about, I remember going before Blue Blaze was there, and I was looking for spaces.
Yes.
And Papanastis, Argos Realty, was going to do this, and the big ass, the original one. And the money fell through. And that was post 08. That was there was good money in the system, but it fell through financing. And so that was meant to be your Optimist Hall for this area. And Optimist Hall, for everyone not familiar, is just this incredible foot traffic, food court, bars, food, all that good. All the things you would want if you bought commercial real estate. You put a business there. You want the foot traffic for that, but you also need your commercial real estate to appreciate, because a lot of people if I buy a building, I'm going to do it because it's cheaper than renting. Rent will be the most money you'll ever spend per month.
Yeah.
That's the most. The thing with your mortgage and owning this building, that's the least you'll ever spend per month. And if you're banking it on appreciation and doing something in the future, you want something like Sonova Mill and these townhomes and all of the things that actually ended up coming to fruition here to happen. Right. But that's part of it. It's you got to think not like a gym owner, what's going to be best for the gym, but what's going to be best for this fucking expensive investment that I'm making long term.
Yeah.
All right, so you get the land. Now you've got a chunk of land, and now you've got to get it developed. What would that look like? Because, this is when you go to you guys probably 1,000 different whiteboard sketches of what the layout of the facility would be and what would be perfect. Walk me through designing something like this.
Well, since I've ran a box before, right? I knew what we had at North Lake and what could be made better.
How large is North Lake?
Just the floor space is about 3,000, 4,000, just the workout floor land, right, on one side, and we have about 4 on the other, right? But when you're looking at a box, and Adam had been there a lot, and he has a lot of ideas, by the way. What would make the member experience better versus what we have up there, and what could we do better? So that's kind of how we started. And then we started working with an architectural company. Like Adam said, what could we do if this failed? What do we do with this space if the gym doesn't work? Can you bring another company in, things of that nature? So we just started kicking around ideas from there first.
Yeah. And so when you're thinking of that, building from the ground up, did you instantly, because this right now, and the entire building is how many square feet?
So the entire building's 18,200.
Okay, 2 floors.
Correct.
Bottom floor is
9,100.
91, so even split pretty much for the most part. Okay. Now the bottom floor is where QCFit West is. How large is just the gym space?
So the gym space is 5,500 square feet.
Okay.
Total.
5,500 square feet, nice size lobby, and then we go upstairs, and you guys have done a great job developing rent roll. Lots of nice little offices, and you've done a great job. Everyone tries to do this, but they try to get everything that's synergistic into their building, and it's hard to do it. You guys have done a great job with that. Yoga, physical therapy, chiro. What's the new one? I see the sign out on the lobby.
Yeah, so they're
restorative kind of shit.
Yeah, they'll do Botox, hydration, IVs.
Oh, great!
So he's a medical doctor. So
phenomenal.
Anything. Yeah.
So hungover, loose skin, he got you.
He's got you.
He's got you.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So you throw that up there. Now, financing this thing, what loan products, what did you go and look at first?
So this is where it gets, the hard part came into play. Because Jason and I, a lot of people don't know, he runs a gym. That's his core income. I run a paint and drywall company. People are always shocked to think, and that's how I pay myself. So we leveraged our businesses. So we went in and, when you have a facility like this, trying to get bids and figure out how much it's going to cost and, how much equity do you have to put in, there's all sorts of things. And so we knew at the time, again, 2016, coming into 2017, we had about 10% of equity to put into a project like this. And the only thing that would service this was an SBA loan. And so we went the SBA route. Little did we know that it was going to take a year to get drawings and, through the city and get all of the permitting and everything by the time we were through the year, we already had 30% equity in the building because we had paid out of pocket for architectural plans, which are $100,000. Nobody tells you that architectural plans are going to cost you, a pretty penny. And so the value of the land, we had paid for it cash. So we had that value in there. So by the time we got all done, we didn't need the SBA a year later. We found really good products through a local bank. And so we were able to get out of the SBA piece and just go a traditional 70-30 loan.
Yeah. So with were you looking at the 7A product or the 504 when you were
7A, right?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Typically for building a structure, you're going to go generally the 7A. And if everyone listening, when Adam's talking about a 70-30, we're essentially talking about a traditional bank loan is going to require 30% down,
right,
maybe a little bit less depending on what the situation is, whereas the SBA products are 10% down. That's why I have a lot of owners who are like, I got no cash, but I've got a rich member who wants to buy a building. And he's like, what value do I bring to the table? I'm like, he can't get an SBA unless he's going to put his own business in there.
Right.
So you're worth 20% equity right there instantly because you saved him 20% on his down payment. So there is an option there for negotiation. Okay. So you went traditional. What would you recommend to someone when they're looking for financing for this? Was it a bank you had done business with, just a smaller bank? What'd you find?
You want to jump?
Well, the regional banks, probably not now, right? The regional issues we have, but the regional banks were the way to go, right?
Okay.
The big banks didn't touch us. I don't remember the first bank at this point, but it was a smaller regional bank that we went to, and they
South State.
South State
Bank.
Okay. Yeah. And I personally had a buddy that worked at South State in another state, right, who was helping us out behind the scenes with what we should do and things of that nature. But they were good to us, so they worked with us. Yeah.
Okay. And when you do a loan, so again, the land's already now paid for. You guys have that. You get the construction. So how many did you? I mean, obviously being in the drywall and the paint, you probably have some GC people in the industry. How many quotes did you get? Is it I always the recommendation is get 3. Don't take the cheapest. Don't take the most expensive. Maybe take the one in the middle type scenario. How did that process go?
Yeah. So we just to touch on the financing part a little bit and things that we learned is you can create equity in a project that may or may not be on paper, if that makes sense. So purchasing of the land was on paper so you could see value and they would give us, but we did a lot of legwork, whether it was paying our own person to do the appraisal, just all these things that you realize you're paying money into it through the process. And so when you go to the bank and you're like, hey, here's my skin in the game, we sat down and we had an Excel spreadsheet that totaled everything. And I mean, it was stuff, little things, $1,000 here, $5,000 there.
Yeah, phase 1 environmentals, things like all that shit.
Yep. So that's how we ended up getting our 30%. It wasn't that we had 30.
You didn't throw an extra third. We just cashed out. We we just spent all our cash on this thing. So but these little payments of an appraisal, which could be $3,000 for that.
Correct.
A phase 1, this could be $3,000 to $4,000. Going ahead and getting a surveyor to come out. Cause I don't know if there were utilities out here. Did you guys?
Not.
So you're going to you got to slap all that shit in.
Yeah. So that's how we got there. But moving to the construction side, I have a construction background, residential construction. So I've built houses, which is way different than a commercial property. But we got 2 quotes and, they were way out of our budget. I think one came in at $3 million and some change. One came in at $2.6 or $2.8. I can't really remember. So in my brain, I felt like I could build the building for less than that.
This is where the easy part came back.
It came back. Yeah.
So I went to Jason. I have a really good friend who's a commercial builder in Charlotte, Adam Hagner. He's a great guy. And I just asked him, I was like, hey, can I pay you a fee to kind of just walk me through the differences between commercial and residential as I go through this?
Yeah. Will you make sure I don't step on my own residential dick because I'm about to do some commercial? Yeah.
And then the beauty was he had a house in Charlotte that needed to be painted, and we just swapped services. I painted his house, and he consulted. And so 18,200 square feet later, We came in way under the $3 million budget. We came in over our desired budget.
Which was?
Our desired budget was $1.8 million.
Okay.
All construction,
Yep.
so not including the property.
But there were some issues in there with why we went over budget. Yeah.
Things that were unforeseen, like a water tap that cost $80,000. Yeah. You're like, wait a minute.
I just wrote that check for the brewery not even a year ago. Yep.
And you're like, wait a minute, it took them half a day.
Yep.
And they charged me $80,000. So an elevator, we didn't anticipate an elevator. You have to have an elevator. That's the 2-story issue, when you start to think about things as an $80,000 elevator. So you're like, so things like that. But we came in about $600,000 over budget. So $1.8 million was where we started. 2.4 was where we ended up. Still significantly less than the $3 million. Mm-hmm. I always tell Jason, we made $600,000.
Sure.
In building this building. It's not cash in your pocket.
No.
But the value of the building, when you look at it, in 10, 15 years from now, we'll realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff you were sharing with me on the line items on the construction, in a loan, because this is what's the style of warehouse you would call this? So like metal fab, is this?
So this is a metal prefab building.
Yeah.
So it comes in on trucks. Yeah.
It was damn near $400,000 just in the metal for the building in and of itself. As you start looking through the line items, and a lot of people just have no concept of that. Even small little, I put a bathroom in there, Stu. What's that? Like $3,000? I'm like, for the permit?
Yeah.
No, it's not $3,000 to put in a bathroom. All right, now stuff like this. Elevator. Why do I need an elevator? Because it's 2 floors.
Correct.
Why do I want 2 floors? Because I want to have a rent roll coming in as well. So you've got to start weighing those the P&L and the risk and return on. Well, fuck. Okay, we better lease these things out, right?
Correct.
If we're going to go ahead and do that. Was that always part of your plan? And I know obviously what Steve had built. People look at it, nice little model of what he's got. But was that always well, we need to generate? Okay, our mortgage is X. I want X% of the mortgage covered by rent roll.
Well, that was the plan, right? And what was this again? It was 2017.
Sure.
Pre-COVID, right? So we had a formula in our heads that would have made this real easy, okay? But unfortunately, as soon as we finished the building, about a month later, 2 months later, we hit COVID. And what is the one thing people don't want to do? They don't want to come. Everybody's going home to work, let alone find space up top. So that was another challenge, right? So obviously that affects the pricing, it affects our model and that stuff. So
you guys had to, because you guys got your CO and opened up right prior to getting shut down with COVID. So then is it just okay, we're going to discount the rent, just get some bodies in here, get some businesses in here, or how did that look?
Well, it was, I'll let Jason answer that question because he was was more instrumental in getting our first tenants here. So if you want to.
There's people you knew personally in the
Yeah,
ecosystem?
you keep mentioning Steve, and I just would go talk to him, and he's like, man, leverage your relationships, right? And so I have a gym that we had, close to 170 members in, and it's people that I know business owners, I know all this stuff. So, and then in the world where my kids play basketball, I'm exposed to tons of other business owners. So my wife was like, hey, leverage your relationships. Yeah. So start talking to people and start hearing that some of them want their own business opportunity, which was perfect. Some of them were looking for more space. So that's initially how we did it. We went with, the hair salon. We went with massage with Morgan, who was up there, performance rehab. Also, the other members with Zach and Lauren. And that's just, those relationships were important for us to provide them an opportunity to open a business. And then in return, they're renting out space. So.
Yeah.
Now, to take a step back on why we went 2 floors versus 1 floor. And I think it's important as people are thinking about what they're going to do to maximize. So we're sitting on 1.2 acres in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County. And so there's a requirement for parking spots per square feet, right? And so there's this weird calculation that with a gym, every 200 square feet, you have to have a spot.
Yep.
And then you have this other weird, if you're medical, it's now, a spot for every 100 square feet. So, it gets really kind of difficult. So with this property, to maximize the space, so to speak, if we went 1 level, it was going to be gym only. And so as we were thinking through the process, it's like, man, the added cost of going up, we're not adding, footprint square footage. So there's cost savings there. We are adding an $80,000 elevator.
Yep.
More metal.
Different steel.
But we have 9,100 square feet upstairs that can literally be leased out.
Yeah.
And our goal at the beginning of this thing when we went, to the architects was to have the upstairs finance the building.
Yep.
and then have the gym be able to breathe. That's where COVID came in, and the upstairs didn't come to fruition. So the gym really had to grow quick.
And you guys, I mean, because you came in at COVID, I mean, you could today, let's say there was no tenants in today and we were marketing this space today, you could go $30 a square foot.
Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, that would do $275 a year
right.
in additional revenue there.
Correct.
Right. It does. Whenever I'm like, people like, I can't find the exact size. I'm like, well, we're finding bigger. And they're like, yeah, I'm like, that's not a bad thing. Yeah. Depending on your SBA loan, so at least you occupy the 51, but like if you can rent roll this thing, I think that's the ideal scenario, other than it all just being on you and you are the tenant that has to fund not only the profit for your gym, but also the profit the bank's going to want numbers on you. Anyone you take a loan from, they're going to want you to send quarterly numbers. And they're like, fuck, boy, you're slipping. Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, that people don't realize, like, they keep an eye on that. And if they start seeing and that's all they do is they see this all day. They start seeing the red flags like, ooh, we don't like that. Yeah. I mean, there's certain margins you have to keep in debt service coverage, and they could call the note on you immediately, and you could be in default of the loan by dropping underneath of that. It's a lot of risk.
Exactly, and the cool thing about when you're looking for your financing is most banks want you to be a % owner operator, right? So with owning the gym, we are technically, because I office upstairs. The reason I office upstairs is we have to be at least 55% owner occupied. And so with the gym being all downstairs and then me having that little space work technically, so our interest rates go down. So we have a very good interest rate for a commercial property.
Is it fixed?
It is. Yeah. It's fixed.
Good for you.
Yeah. So
good.
So yeah, we pay 4.5% interest on a building like this. And the interesting thing about it though is with the upstairs coming alive and kind of leasing itself out, you have a lot more flexibility as a gym owner, right, to use your money in different ways. So, yeah.
You don't have that foot on your throat. I like as a gym, those months where it's just like, just 2 shitty months of sales. Yeah. And unfortunately 1 month of an avalanche because it's going back to school and this of cancellations. It's just like, fuck, it's nice having that breathing room here. I get a lot of questions on this. How did you guys set up the partnership here? Did you form Real Estate Holdings Company LLC? And then what does the ownership of that look like? And then versus like the LLC specifically for the gym here?
So yeah, we formed a Zebulon LLC,
okay,
of which Adam and I are 50-50 partners.
And that's the Real Estate Holdings Company?
That's the Real Estate Holding Company, right? And then the gym itself is a separate LLC under CrossFit North Lake West. Again, we're 50-50 in that as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
You guys have probably had to discuss, I mean, you guys eat, sleep, and breathe this. One of the reasons I don't know who answered my DM. I remember it was like, I knew what was going down with the gym and the brewery and all that. And I remember hitting someone up like, you guys ever thought about doing open gym? I like shot a DM over one day and someone answered it. I forget what it was. And I was just, but I'd never been in. I had heard about it. I just never made the trip over. And I walked in, I was like, this is the best looking CrossFit gym in all of Charlotte, in all of Met County. I'd put in Steve's not in Met County, but like that'd be the only thing that would compare to it. Yeah. It's like, how in the fuck does this place not have a line out the door yet? And then I look over, I'm like, oh, that's the benefit. That's why they were able to do over here. You got to the party early. You want to do South End right now? But why is Ultimate CrossFit gone? Why is South Charlotte? Like, because they were in South End. It's so fucking expensive. Yeah. You can't do that hype market area. When you guys thought about this space long term, did the bank require you to keep this lease of the gym in here for a period of time?
No, so the bank really wants 5-year leases.
Okay.
So, obviously if you can get a 10 or a 7.
But you're just subleasing. You're not reporting those leases, are you?
We are.
You are,
yeah,
okay.
So all of those are all reported to the bank.
Got it. So all your additional tenants are direct leases with Zebulon, not subleases of the gym.
No. Correct. Yeah. Yep. So everybody, even the gym leases to Zebulon. And that helps us with the financing. So Jason's business, North Lake, is no longer on the loan here because we did a refi.
Yep.
Sports Painting, my business, is no longer a guarantor on the lease. This is its own guarantor, which is great.
Yep.
And part of the reason why is because our signed leases were long enough duration, so 5 to 7 years, and it covered the note.
Yep.
And so the bank was like, yeah, we don't need you guys, on the note anymore, which was great for us because you never want to lose your home. And
no, you put it out there in the beginning, and you sign those PGs because that's the access to the capital up front, and then show them what you can do. You're like, yeah, we can get these leases. We can get 5, and they're not just fly-by-night companies. They're legit. Right. They've got a track record, whatever it may be.
Now, the cool thing to touch on his relationships, a lot of them had never started their own businesses.
Okay.
One of the difficult parts was we funded the upfits upstairs out of pocket. So, we had to dig again into our own pockets. I did the physical construction of the upstairs upfits. But like Pinnacle Massage and PRA, they're thriving, and they never owned businesses before. And
took advantage of an opportunity.
Yeah. They took advantage of opportunity. We took advantage of their desire, and they're now kind of just killing it upstairs. And so, that's the other thing is when we finished this building, the upstairs was incomplete. And so all of those upfits, we had to figure out cash out of pocket.
Yeah, just build as you can.
That was it. And so, but it's kind of cool to see those people now looking to expand their own businesses now, 3 years in. So it's kind of cool.
Do you guys get inquiries now, or do you ever just list shadow suites and stuff just to see what the market would pay, just to have an idea?
We don't. We do get inquiries a lot.
Yeah.
Is space coming available? Can we get on, in line? We haven't really done because most of our first couple leases are due to expire next June. And so we'll get into the market here and see what's coming. We did just recently, again, with the relationships, we offered everybody to re-up at a new price that was less than market, but more than they're currently paying.
A little bit closer to the number we talked about.
Yeah. And that was, A, we didn't want turnover because it costs money.
Yep.
And B, we didn't want to go, rake them over the coals in a year from now and where their businesses were affected. So I think 4 out of our 7 upstairs re-upped.
Yeah. At least for me, I felt like I got like a master's degree in like commercial real estate and permitting process. Like when you go through this, I didn't have a project manager. We couldn't afford that. And so I was the project manager, and I'm an idiot. And so like you learn through it. Looking back on what you do now, what would have been some key things if like Jason Adam today could just go back and talk to you guys as you're in the process? No, don't do that, or look at this instead. What kind of wisdom would you impart to yourself now?
I may give that to Adam because he was the builder. He's the.
Yeah, if I could go back, I would ask the bank for more money.
Okay.
Because we needed it. And so, just a little blip on a big story was we did get into a legal issue with our first bank on draws and extras and exploding budgets. And, we ended up having to fund some of the overages out of pocket, which hurt because we're not receiving any kind of income. We're having to put more in. And so we had to really tighten the belt for 12 months until we could refi. And so if people understand refinancing, when you're in a construction budget, there's not a whole lot of leeway. Like the numbers are the numbers. And so
There's not like cheaper steel, right?
There's
like
not cheaper steel.
More expensive. Everything's more expensive.
Yes.
Everything's more expensive. And then when you're on a brand new job site, and Duke Power and Spectrum is nowhere within, 3 blocks of you. And now you got to pay to have these undergrounds put in, things that you didn't anticipate. So, one thing I would say is do research on the front end and try to get your budgets as tight as you can. It's first time we ever did it, so we would know on the second one.
Yep.
But 2, get more money on the front end because you are going to refi. And if you don't spend it all in the construction part, you can refi for less. But if you do spend it, you can, you'll have that, and you don't have to come out of pocket and get stuck mid project.
I think the chances are you miss something, you're going to spend it.
Yes.
We had quotes that increased, that expired on us. We had stuff happen with the city. I mean, you're going to need the extra money.
I tell them it's like these projects for commercial are going to generally, the number I give is whatever the total project is, have 30% extra.
Yes.
And assume it's going to run 30 to 60% over timeline. Because these things, it doesn't move fast. And it's funny now, I don't know if you've been paying, I pay attention now to everything the city's doing. So the city of Charlotte's doing the UDO, the Unified Development Ordinance. So essentially, how it's it's a real complicated zoning, I-1, I-2, TOD, blah, blah, blah. all that just kind of getting consolidated to like 4 some different models. It's just going to make it super easy. Like parking requirements for gyms and stuff in density-based districts like this become less type scenario.
Would have been nice.
Oh, would have been nice. I spent $60,000 rezoning the building.
Yeah.
6 months later, they instantly gave everyone along the light rail instant
free
TOD,
zoning.
free zoning to get the TOD because we don't have enough parking for this shit.
Yeah.
I was like, these motherfuckers.
Am
I going to check?
Yeah.
Am I going to check? No, not at all. The parking lot part is very interesting because that's the hardest thing for, especially, I mean, we're like 3 John Elway football throws away from the city, right?
Yes.
Not far at all.
I like that you use John Elway.
Yeah,
That's my favorite
That's your
player.
dude. That's your dude. Have you tried his 8 beer?
No.
He is the biggest sponsor of 8 beer. When we ran the marathon in Austin, it's just called 8. And I've got like, dude, I bet you if I drink 8 of those things during the Chicago Marathon when I run it, at least get a phone call from John Elway. That's like what I'm playing in my head. Like, and just publicize it, put it in front of the camera.
There you go.
But anyway, so with you guys here, man, parking, like that's every gym that wants to open something up in an urban district, parking's the biggest issue. What were your requirements? Because it wasn't just square footage because the gym, I mean, because you also, like you said, you had the medical offices in there too. I mean, you had the land. If you didn't have to do the parking, what would you have done with that? Just kept the grass flat, like the kids run outside? Like what was,
Yeah.
Well, we wanted to do an outside area,
Yeah.
right? And that was going to be this area here. We had to end up using it for parking, right?
Yep.
So we wanted an outside rig. You've been to 77.
Yeah.
That was a phenomenal outside area. That would have been one thing we would have done. Other than that, I don't think we've talked about much else, right?
No, yeah. I mean, the outside area in the back was going to be crucial, but I think we have 56 parking lots or parking spots, including the street. Yeah. We had to use the street to come up with the right amount. Yeah. And then these are all considered compact, right, to get them in. Mm-hmm. But yeah, had we not had that, we'd had a great outdoor, workout area.
I texted you the other day. I showed up early in the morning, and I was just like, fuck. I saw literally the proximity, these townhomes. I mean, literally.
You're in somebody's living room skiing, bro.
You're literally skiing. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, are they? I'm like, and I'm dealing with a client who's got a new noise ordinance right now issue. And I'm like, oh, fuck. You guys were here first, but still, I'm like, you make sure someone's telling who's ever leasing or buying that thing. Let them know. Like, what?
Yeah, so we're in touch with the lease agent. She came over. They're actually going to market this as an amenity to the townhomes.
Good.
Yeah, noise ordinance are weird, especially the Meck County one. I'm familiar with it because I hate dogs barking. Mm-hmm. And the funny story is I would print the noise ordinance and put it on my neighbor's door, and I would highlight your dog's barking.
Yeah.
And then I'd run back into my house so I wouldn't have conflict. So yeah, the noise ordinance can be an issue. We're still zoned.
Sure.
For what we're doing. But if somebody makes a big enough stink, you're going to have to deal with it.
It's a pain in the ass. Yeah. And you have the hours and how much. And it's, I mean, and it's nice here because every tenant in here understands what's happening, right? So you're not going to have a tenant probably, kick out and want out of their lease because you're, disturbing their right to quiet enjoyment or anything like that. But yeah, I saw that, and are these lease or buy?
So the 40 units on that side are all homeowners. And then the remaining 92 got purchased by one company. And now it's all lease.
Yeah. Well, that's not bad. I mean, so, a lot of the like where Barry's is and all those places that are bottom floor units and they have the apartment dwellings above, they give them a little discount off of it because,
they get a little vibration.
Exactly. Yeah. That's pretty much all that is.
Yep. No, so and that was part of the thing when we built and we finished this building. We were actually finished in November of 2019. And then the city had us sitting for a firewall, which is a long story. So we sat here for 90 days, finished with rig and weights and ready to go, and we couldn't open due to a fire rating issue. So we opened up a month before COVID started. And so, one of the biggest things for us was waiting for all of this. We knew we were a little early, but we felt like it was the right timing. Had COVID not hit, we probably would have had a quicker, ascent, but we just kind of pulled through. But now that it's here, it's finally.
Strategically, again, if we, hindsight is always 20/20, but strategically, the big players in the CrossFit space and the microgym space in South End, you go pull the leases and be like, there's no way that's renewing at the end of this lease at $42 a square foot. There's no way. And it's going to be beep, 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 they're going to be gone. And then this is here. And this is easily, like you said, accessible. It's nice to get to. The one thing that's interesting, most people when they're doing this, kind of like I had the existing business. I was getting kicked out of that location. I needed this other one to open up. but I just migrated everyone there. So I didn't have to run a pre-sell. I didn't have to worry about, is this thing going to be cash flowing? It's not like we were going to empty your location up in Northlake to fuel this one. How did you guys think about a pre-sell kind of process? Obviously, COVID fucking that whole thing up, but even beforehand, you had to be like, wow, okay, we got to open up on day one with more than, the 9 members that actually live or the however many members live on this side of town. Yeah, it's more convenient.
Well, we actually did run a pre-sale.
Okay.
I leveraged Northlake.
Yep.
And we ran pre-sale and maybe 25, 30 members, right? 25, 30 members we opened up with that knew we were coming. I think we did a decent job with that. And again, like Adam said, when COVID hit.
Did it cannibalize you a little up there with some of those members?
Yeah, some did.
Yeah.
Some did, which was something I had to get used to.
Sure.
Right? It was, people were closer in proximity. It's a really nice gym. And then we just picked up new members as well. But then when COVID hit, we went from that 25, 30 number to like down to your hardcore 10, right? And it stayed there.
Yeah.
And you never want anybody to lose their business because of COVID, right?
Sure.
But, COVID was the reason why we lost a lot of pre-sale members, and it's also a reason why we blew up.
Yeah.
And sometimes you say, were we lucky or were we smart or a little bit of both? And I think we were just a little bit of both at the end of that,
It's interesting because when I got here and I recognize people that I went to CrossFit South End, it's like there's a certain clientele, especially in Charlotte, that's like, they're probably not leaving the core area. They're going to be in one of those boroughs of Charlotte. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, you look now and you 7 years ago, you search Google or you search CrossFit in the Charlotte area, but it's everywhere. And you guys are, let's say, at what point, because I tell gym owners, like, make colleagues instead of competitors with all the local gyms. Like, why? Like, I don't know, that guy sucks, whatever. I'm like, here's the deal. The odds of all of you still being in business in 7 years, so slim. But if you happen to be the one that was, and you were good to that dude in and out of your, whatever casual colleague relationship you have, when he goes to shut down, he's at least be like in an email. And by the way, go check out QCFit West.
Important.
It's
super
so
important.
fucking important.
Yeah.
And how much did you guys notice? Like, you'd probably hear in the news or around town, so and so's closing down. And then was it just like a nice, slow, steady trickle? Like, how did that look? And have you had to market much since the closure of so many other gyms in the area?
So what happened? There was 2 gyms that closed down. I knew people from either gym, right? And from one of the gyms, we had someone inside that gym that was the organizer role, and she's a member here now, and she kind of organized this huge email and just pushed everybody over here, right? And we'd had a couple coaches that come over already, and some of the coaches helped people get over. So it was like relationships getting that through, and it happened on both sides. One gym happened, fortunately for them, to find the new location, and they had a good community, so most of those members went back. But, it was growing pains going from that small of a gym to just, boom, that many people, right? So what do you do? We weren't built for that quite yet. We didn't have the infrastructure, the organization, the product, anything ready for that. So from that end, that was difficult, but it was welcomed.
Is your recommendation, because I get asked all the time, can I contact the guy who's selling or close down his gym? Like, can I buy your? I'm like, what are you gonna buy?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you buying?
Yeah. I reached out.
Yeah.
I reached out and I had a conversation with them. I was just like, hey, and I personally don't mind. I mean, if they're the owner of the gym and they want to say, hey man, I don't want to do that unless I get this.
Sure.
And then to me, if you really have that kind of pull and you're telling people, hey, this is a great gym, they're coming, then that's worth it. Because I get 12 more months.
100%.
Months,
100%. I get here and I'm like, this place is great. And then you're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're also adding saunas. It's like, Jesus Christ. What other plans do you still have for this space? And it's like, because once you get done, once you get your CO and you get in and you've paid your last construction draw bill, you don't want to see another dude with a hammer and a bill for you for fucking out. You're like, I'm good. People better love this shit because in my head, they're going to love it the way it is. And it doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah.
I built this coffee lounge, 2,000 square feet. I'm like, people are going to hang out here all day.
Yeah.
7% hung out there all day, right? The rest was just random strangers, which is great for lead gen, but wasn't what I envisioned in my head. What that you built from an experience perspective has not lived up to the expectation or what you thought was going to happen in your head.
Our front lobby obviously has not lived up to expectations.
Well,
talk like to me,
I think I know what you mean by that, but for everyone listening, explain.
Yeah, so the lobby's great. When you walk in, it looks fantastic, but it was really meant to be a smoothie bar coffee shop. We had a tenant signed up, ready to go, and they pulled out last minute. And so really COVID and this kind of lagging the development around us has kind of thwarted that lobby. So we think it'll take off. That's our challenge over the next 12 months is to get a tenant in the front lobby to make it, more robust and actually live up to the expectations. But for 3 years, it's just been a space that has not produced any revenue.
Yeah. Sure.
So the reason why the saunas, that's me. Jason's way more frugal when it comes to money, which is a good thing. That's why we work well. I'm more like, hey, let's add this, let's add that. Does it add value? Does it not? Sometimes I got to be pulled back.
This is what you were saying when he has a lot of ideas.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so, he's right. The saunas for me were a customer experience, right? So we have a lot of, hey, I go into work either before my workout and then I come work out and I go home, or I come here, I work out, then I go into the work, or hey, I do my lunchtime here. And so the big piece on the bathrooms, the reason why we invested in nice bathrooms, saunas, was we knew that we had that guy or girl coming and going from work. And we wanted them to be like, hey, I can not only do my workout here, but I can get ready. I can possibly even eat my lunch here or do my breakfast or whatever. And so that was really the investment part and idea for me was, hey, when our competitors do pop up around us, and they're charging you $185 for your membership, are you able to step into a sauna?
Yeah.
Or are you able to have a nice open facility? Can you park easy? We have people that drive from South End because they can park, right? Rather than going to something that's closer because it's a nightmare to park. So those kind of things. But yeah, we have other plans. We're going to put a dog run in the back because these people love their dogs.
Absolutely.
And they want to bring their dogs to the gym with them. And some of us,
I'm still trying to figure that out, by the way, but whatever.
Bro, I get it. I get it.
They love their dogs. So we're going to do
do
little things. The back room back here is going to be retrofitted into you can come do open gym at all hours and not mess with a class. So this back area will be a nice little
24 access kind of scenario.
24 access kind of thing. You can come get your
The dog run's smart though. Like in a lot of areas, like, I've always made my jokes on the dogs in the gym and whatnot, but it's like Austin, Texas, Cincinnati here. Like these are just crazy dog dense fucking cities. Yeah. Crazy. It's like there's more dogs than kids, especially with this demographic. Yeah. It's like, well, instead of having it, fluffy, to a kettlebell over there, fucking just make a centralized location. Yep. And then, talk to your insurance agent. Like, so what happens if fucking it gets rowdy back there?
Fido bites.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, what's the rules on that? But I it's different. I like it. Now, let me ask you this. So the saunas and all that, great at, especially a very timely kind of thing right now, very popular. At what point do you look at it like, at what point you're like, okay, that's it. Like we are into the building unless shit breaks, like HVAC in 15 years or whatever it is. Like this is it, and now we just need to ride the profit of the rent that's accumulating here.
I think there's more. We have a few more steps, right?
A couple more.
He's wearing off on me, right?
Okay.
So we've had some talks about partnering with one of our tenants to doing like a rehab room.
Okay.
Because you go downtown and you see these businesses that built their entire business model off recovery. They have Normatec boots, they have cryotherapy center. I mean, people pay memberships literally just to go into a room to recover.
Yep. Sit in a salt room.
I'm still trying to figure that out, right? But there's obviously a market. So I'm thinking when he was talking, I was like, well, what if we had a place to work out and a place to fully recover from the saunas and cold plunge and Normatec boots? And what if it was a comfortable environment? What if I can sit back in a chair, watch a TV, right, and just flush? Is that worth it? For me, I'm just old school. Maybe I use it once a month. But apparently someone wants to use it every day.
Sure.
So,
you look at the sweat houses, sauna house, the Perspires, where just individual little private sauna, go in there, pay your money, listen to whatever music you want, get out, and that's it. They just pop in there. What's the one in South End? Hotworks is in South End. Like just in and out real quick. It's interesting. And is this an OZ, an opportunity zone from a tax perspective? Was this listed as an?
It is not. It's a. There's all sorts of grant money for this area.
Got it.
Yeah. But
not direct tax based.
Not direct.
Got it. Well, it's interesting. It was like, I remember when I was at Minster, it was CrossFit South End. I wanted to go to the city and be like, how do I petition to have the Charlotte Marathon run past the building? Because I had that giant sign out there. I was like, I want to get eyes on it. I'm like, well, there's actually a way, like the routes are always done a couple years in advance. We try to spread it around this blah, 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 blah. And like, this is the process of going. And the other day I was thinking about that. I'm like, how the fuck do we get the Charlotte Marathon to run down this street? Yeah. And then you guys just out there with the, do the thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, fuck, I got to bring that up to those guys. Cause that, I mean, again, it's like also because it's back here, the eyeballs aren't necessarily on it as much. So you have to rely on the digital. I've seen you guys bring in the social media guys and the cameras and all that. You've been doing a great job. CrossFit's one of those things though. It's a nice facility, the good sugarcoat all that. It's very word of mouth, especially when there's not that many people standing on the island on this side of town.
Yeah, well, and it's expensive to do it the other way, right? So the word of mouth and the social media is the best way to do it because, again, you can't go put ads out in the radio for people. It's a very small market for people who wouldn't even do this,
Yeah. Would you guys ever do another?
So yes and no. I would. I feel like the model makes sense. Not just CrossFit. We talked the other day, would I go and start just a gym? I would not. Because I think starting just a gym as your primary source of income is tough, right? You got to be the guy coaching. You got to be the general manager. You got to be the sales. You got to be everything. But I do think this, with a gym as the core tenant, as a secondary or third piece of your revenue stream, makes sense.
So you're talking from an investor standpoint, like like a building-wise,
Correct.
you do another building, lease it out to another gym, or would you put your own model in it?
I think both would be an option. So for example, Jason and I, this is our 401k, right? I don't have a 401k. I'm a small business owner. So this building and what it means to us long-term, appreciation plus revenue, with the added benefit of we own the gym, makes sense. And it's an exciting prospect. Could you rinse and repeat, for example, in South Carolina somewhere? You could.
Extremely difficult.
It's difficult, but you would find the right property, leverage your relationships to do the same thing. But one of the ideas that I've been kicking around, which I think makes sense, is do suites. So sell suites in the finished product rather than doing leases. So, hey, I'm going to design the project. I'm going to find the land. We're going to bring the same energy, same everything. And instead of leasing this piece, this 1,300 square, you'll buy it. And, it's a $250,000 purchase for you as your small bit. And now you have a piece of equity in your own business. And
so you mean like condoing out the whole building? Yeah.
Bingo. Condoing it out, you would still be the declarant. You would still be running, what the property is allowed to do, but you would almost have your facility bought and paid for through doing the condo piece. And so there's a little bit of, hey, I don't have the rent revenue coming, but I do have a paid for gym. And so I think that probably is the better idea long term for a second and third opportunity, is saying, hey, I don't have to come out of pocket $600,000 on my next deal. If I can we have proof that it works, and so now we could sell that to the next piece.
It's interesting. In South End, there's it's over by like where Bulldog Beer and Wine is, but it's a bottom floor retail, and they just carved out 200 square foot little spots, little micro leases. They're on 1 year leases, and like Glory Days Apparel is over there, a couple other brands, and like they're just good, especially for getting started. We were at the Charlotte Art League yesterday, and they just have these cubicles, little 60 square foot cubicles that artists can go and rent out, and again, quick, easy flex leases. And it's you look at the warehouse, be like, I can find, lease it to Amazon, like, unicorn style, or I could find someone that wants this, or I just carve it out, because there's way more small business owners that can't afford $7,000 a month in rent and whatever it is, that just need a small starter spot. And once they graduate, there's another startup coming up right behind them.
Oh, yeah,
100%.
for sure.
Yeah, it's like very much kind of a Planet Fitness-y type model type scenario, because there's way more of those individuals than there are people ready to go hardcore into something like a CrossFit program.
Yeah, and I think the other thing from a gym perspective is, Jason knows how to run and operate a gym and get it started. The idea of this location, there was no competitor, right? Now, mind you, the clientele hadn't come yet, right? They're starting to come. And like he said the other day, our competitors are coming as well. Like they'll come in and fill. Savona is going to have a gym 100%. Somewhere. And that's good for us. Hey, more people coming over here to do health and fitness puts their eyes on our facility as well. And then, the best will survive, and probably both will survive easy. But if we were to repeat this, you would have to find a space that, could meet the demand and or find the demand and then meet it.
Well, last thing I want to hit on, one thing me and my partner was really big for us. We were in different stages of our lives, but we needed to have very clear guardrails in our partnership agreement. It's like, at what point do we exit this as either lease out the building or sell it? Like, what is the number that if it came in, it would call a meeting together, like we have to discuss it at least. We don't have to do it, but we at least got to discuss it. I'm sure you guys sat around having a cocktail one night and talked about, like, what's the number if someone comes by and they want to blank do something with this?
I guess I don't know. That never would have to give us tingles, right? Yeah, then we need to sit down and talk. We haven't had. We talk occasionally about that, but we haven't sat down and said there's a number.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure there is, but like what Adam said, a lot of me is proud of what we did. So it'd have to be a big number because if there is a long-term rent roll. We do have a phenomenal community and membership. So like you have to look at. There's a little bit of ego involved that you did something that not a lot of people can do. And do you let this baby of ours go versus is this number big enough long term?
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think because we've talked about it just recently, we're like, hey, do we go find a warehouse space close by here just to have a plan B when somebody walks in and is like, hey, what happened to you at your space? Hey, I'll pay you $40 a square foot for this downstairs. And then all of a sudden you're like, yikes, I can make more renting than I could running and operating.
Yeah, stress-free. I mean, this, you've literally, whether you do or not, this is ideal for brewery, Elevation Church. Like, Jesus saves and Jesus pays. Okay, right? Like,
especially at Elevation Church.
Yeah.
Especially that kind of money.
I'm telling you. I mean, they
take the whole building.
They'd put HVAC back here quicker than you could blink your eyes, and it would be over.
Would he listen to this, by the way? If he's listening.
Elevation Church?
Can we put a bid in?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Send it over to these guys. I'll put their email in the show notes.
That's right.
It's interesting because you never know who's going to want what with it. And someone could look and be like, no, I'm going to knock it all down.
Yeah.
Like, oh, really? Like, yeah, I'm going to put in 365 multifamily residential units in here, and I'm going to give you $10 million to go away. And he'd be like, is that worth? Is it? And it's situational based, right? It's like, where am I in that time of my life? The toilet overflowed that day, and the coach didn't show up to coach class, and fucking this didn't happen. You'd be like, yeah, you know what? Let's talk, right?
And that member bitched about programming.
Yeah, exactly. It's all situational. But you guys have at least done, again, what 0.0001% of gym owners will do. Hopefully this kind of stuff here gives people some insight or lets them hear the story. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time to do all this and being so forthcoming with it. If anyone wanted to reach out and just kind of get it straight from you guys and ask questions, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Coach?
Yeah, they could just email. So our email for the gym is coach@qcfit.net.
Cool.
We're not greedy. We'll help you through whatever.
Yeah, no, and I tell you, I've absolutely enjoyed. I didn't think I'd ever enjoy working out in someone's gym.
Yeah,
I'm like, man, I'm gonna fucking have such a chip on my shoulder. I love it. I'm here more than I'm at home.
We love Stu. We always talk about Stu is a good member.
Yeah,
Stu's definitely one of our favorites, so we appreciate it.
I love it, man. Well, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. But thank you, dude.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.